Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the books I read in July, and there was some good ones. I really enjoyed all my July reading. So if you enjoy this type of video and other homeschool videos, please remember to subscribe and let's get into it. Okay, so I am so happy because this month I hit my goal. I read 4 books. I pushed myself really hard the last week and a half basically to get through, because I think I had only read 1 book by that point. So I had to push really hard to get through the rest, but I did it and I'm very happy that I hit my goal of reading 4 books a month. We did it, so yay for that. But I have 4 really good books to share with you, and one kind of honorable mention, I totally forgot to share it last month. And I actually really enjoyed the book I'm gonna share with you, and so we'll do that one at the end. But let's get into some of these books. Okay, the first one I read was Lovely War, and I believe this was gonna be a book club book. I think it was, and then I couldn't go or something. I don't know, it's kind of been my life lately with a baby, but I really liked this book. It's a World War I mostly book. It kind of flashes into World War II, but not really the war itself, just the time period. And it's very different. Like, the writing style of it is very different. So I don't even know if I can explain it. I don't want to give like anything away, but also just try to explain how it is. So it's from the perspective of Greek gods. So like Aphrodite is on trial from her husband, Hephaestus. I remember learning about Greek mythology, but it's not a strong point of mine for sure. And we haven't like talked about it in homeschool at all. And then Ares, I think she had an affair with Ares, so she's on trial for this. And so they're going through this trial, and then she's like, wait, I have some things to share about why love is important and all this kind of stuff. And so then it goes into World War I, and she shares some stories of people that she kind of brought together. And so it follows, a lot of the story is following these 2 different couples. The 4 individuals that, become 2 couples. Anyways, and so that's kind of how it goes. And it's very interesting. Again, it's kind of this perspective of a god, it's gods because it's Greek gods, but that kind of presence over like looking everything that's going on Earth. That's kind of how it is. And then you get some of like Hades coming in and a little bit of afterlife perspective as well. So it's just very interesting. It was a very good story, and it also obviously is giving you some history about World War I, which I don't know as much about. I read a lot more World War II books. So I highly recommend this book. It was a pretty quick read. It's a thick book, but it's pretty quick. Some of the chapters are really short, and it's split into several different parts. So it's fairly quick to read, and it's very interesting. Okay, the next book I read was it's a like heart-wrenching story. So it's called Let It Go, and I've had this story for a while, and it's a little bit, I think it's an older book. I don't remember what the copyright is on this book, if I can even find it quickly enough to let you know. So 2012, yeah, because I'm like, I feel like the story itself happened a long time ago, maybe in 2007, I believe. So this is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I feel like I've heard this story. Like I said, it happened in 2007, but I was actually teaching in China when it happened. And so I don't remember how I heard about it, but it became a big thing because this dad here, so his wife was 40, I believe, around 40 when she died. So she was pregnant, 5 months pregnant, about 4 or 5 months, and then they had 3 other kids in the car and 1 son that wasn't with them, and they were hit by a teenage drunk driver and killed his wife, the baby, and then 2 kids in the back seat instantly. And so in that moment, his life changed forever. And in that moment, he decided to forgive the other driver. And he lets that rule his life, and how he can help this child himself, this drunk driver that was a teenager, and totally changes that boy's life. But this goes through a little bit of before that, and then how he goes through it. Obviously, it's still extremely difficult, and then he does end up getting remarried and have a couple more children. And so it's his story as he learns to let it go, learns to forgive, and some of the ways that he's able to heal and stay connected with God. So I really love this story, and he does a pretty good job. Like, he uses some church terms, but he does a pretty good job at explaining what they mean so that anybody could read this book. And I just feel like it's a really good book, especially in the world today. I feel like we always want to place blame on somebody else, and sometimes there isn't someone to blame. Sometimes there is, but all the time we should just let it go, because it just hurts us more when we don't. So I just really love this book. It's a very quick read, and it just it brings tears, but it also brings a lot of hope and inspiration and just helps strengthen my faith. Okay, the next book I read is also written by members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but this book is for everyone, guys, really. I love this book. It's called 7 at Sea, and I read it because there's a program by the church that's, well, sort of by the church, by Deseret Book, that does time out for women. And so they travel around the country and they do motivational talks, so for like a night and then the whole next day. So Friday night and then all day Saturday, you go and listen to all these people share tons of different perspectives. They have music, all these things. So I'm doing that at the end of August with some friends. And Emily Orton is going to be one of the speakers at the one I'm attending. They kind of switch around speakers and stuff. And so I saw this and saw that this told part of her story and wanted to know more about it. So basically they lived in New York, and he had a job. He had gone there to do like musical Broadway kind of stuff. That wasn't what he was working in. It wasn't his favorite thing. But he always loved sailing. So like 6 years before they actually just go out and sail for several months, that they start taking lessons and all this kind of stuff, and they don't have tons of money. They have 5 kids, and they're living in a 2-bedroom apartment? I think 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment in Manhattan area. And I used to live close to that. I lived in Connecticut, and so I'm like, wow, that's like small, and with that many people, and all like in Manhattan, it's a little bit crazy. It's a different life over there. And so anyways, it talks about that and how they decide to leave that. They buy a boat. They haven't even seen it. And so it goes through their story of having to buy the boat, everything involved in that. They go down to St. Martin, and then just their journey back. And it's just very, very cool and inspiring. My husband's like, okay, so now you want to go buy a boat and learn to sail? I'm like, no, it's not for me, okay? That sort of adventure is not for me. It's not something I've like always dreamed of doing. I love the ocean, but I don't desire to go be in a boat on the ocean for months on end. So anyway, that's kind of the overview of the whole story, and it's just really good. I just really loved it. It has, the ups and downs of just learning how to take care of a boat for that long, and the things that go wrong, like buying an old junker car, kind of that sort of thing. But then also just the struggles as a family. Like there's 5 of them, and still again in this small space, learning to work together, and the struggles they have, the struggles she has with her husband. Like it just goes through some of those things and discusses them. And it does have some like church, I guess, language in it that I don't know if they explain it as well as he does in this book, but it's still very, it's pretty easy to read. I feel like anybody could read it and understand what was going on for the most part. And it's just a really fun story. And also like, why are you doing this? Some of the storms they're caught in, I'm just like, like having a heart attack myself. So anyways, I just thought it was really good, a very different story than I've normally read. But again, it's a memoir, which I think this is a memoir as well. I think memoirs are more inspiring than any sort of self-help type of books, because they talk about actual people that have done these things and overcome them, and went on their adventures, made it through their trials, whatever it is. And it's just more inspiring to me than picking up a self-help book. So I recommend reading this book. It was super fun to read, super interesting, and I learned a lot about boats and about the ocean that I just didn't know. Okay, the last book that I read this month was one that took a little bit longer because it was more of a deep thinking book. So this is The Power of Showing Up, and it's written by the same person as The Whole Brain Child. child. And there's a few other books that they have. I actually have another one of them. I don't know if I'll read it this month or in a few months, but so they have No Drama, Discipline, and the Yes Brain. So I don't have the Yes Brain, but I have No Drama, Discipline. So I think this one's technically the last one they wrote, but I don't think you need to read the other ones. They reference some of their other books, but you can still understand this one without having read the other ones. And I also love that there's so many pictures in this book, like they do little comics, because it makes the reading go faster. And so like they always have these little things right here, and they're just fun little comics. But there are so many inspiring things in here. Like I said, it's similar to The Whole Brain Child and touches on some of those points, which I talked about that book a little bit last month. But it also just talks about the importance of, the power of showing up for our kids, making sure that they always know we're available, even if their emotions seem like they're overreacting and like it's ridiculous. They still need to know that we're that secure base. And so a big chunk of this book is spent talking about secure relationships, avoidant relationship, attachment theory, avoidant attachment, all these insecure attachments versus a secure attachment, what these look like, what they could look like into adulthood, and then what you can do in emotional situations to help our kids and what it might look like in the future. So it's like, if you help them with this is creating a more secure attachment, and in the future, this is how they'll be able to respond to things, and this is what they'll look like into adulthood. And then it has you reflect on how you were parented and different things that you might have went through, and maybe how that shapes some of your responses now, and some of the maybe insecurities you have in relationships, or maybe you have secure relationships. So it goes through some of those things. And like I said, the last few chapters, I think it's like half of the book, it goes through, because it talks about, let me find the table of contents here. So, it goes through all these attachment theories, but then it talks about how all kids need to feel safe, feel seen, feel soothed, and feel secure. And so there's a chapter that covers all those things and how we can help our kids feel that way. And then if we do, the last chapter is like, hopefully this is what their future will look like, because we've created this secure attachment with them. And so this is a book I will have to go back through. I write all my little notes up here, like all the little quotes and everything that I like. And so I'll have to go back through it and really pick it apart, answer some of the questions, think about it more. But I think it's a really good book for all parents to read, and it's fairly simple. Like his explanation of attachment theory is very clear. And he says if you're already familiar with it, you can just skip that part and go to the later chapters. And so that's also an option if you like to do that. But I really enjoyed this book. I feel like there was a lot of interesting things to think about and a lot of ways that I could better help my kids. Okay, here is the bonus book you get because I forgot it last month, poor book. So this is A Brilliant Night of Stars and Ice, and this is by Rebecca Conley. I have mentioned her before. I don't own print books from her because all the books I've read from her are like Regency romance, historical fiction. She writes some spy books and things like that from all that time period, all from like Regency time period. But then I saw she wrote a book about the Titanic, and I love reading books about the Titanic as well. It's another like point in history that really fascinates me. And so growing up, I always had a lot of Titanic books, and that's what I'd write, historical fiction on. I'm like, okay, let's find either a Titanic book or a World War II book, and that's what I would read about. And so this one was really good because it was a totally different perspective. It's still, historical fiction, but I feel like it's written a little bit more like a nonfiction book. It has a storyline going through it, but it's told more from the perspective of the Carpathia, which is the ship that rescued all of the people that were still in the water from the Titanic, from the lifeboats. And so I knew that the Carpathia was the ship that rescued them, and I've read another book that talks a little bit more about the Carpathia, but this one focuses on it tons more. And everything that they were going through, it talks about the captain on that boat and his personality and all the different things that he was going through as they went to save these people and their response to it. And it was just so different to me to read this perspective. And I really saying I enjoyed it sounds horrible when you're talking about something so tragic, but I really liked the perspective. It just made it more rounded in my head, a more well-rounded story than just reading it's always from the side of the Titanic and then a person on the Titanic and then what happens to them. And you're still hearing some of that perspective, but then you're also hearing a lot from what was going on the Carpathia. And I just feel that just made it so much better for me and just helped me better understand everything that was going on that night. And so I just appreciated that Rebecca Conley wrote this book, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, so those are the books that I read in July, plus the bonus book. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this inspires you. Maybe you can go read some of these books, check them out. And if you do, let me know if you like them. And remember to leave your recommendations for other books down in the comments and give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.